Jujutsu Kaisen has been really heating up this week with the introduction of chapters 222 and 223 of the series, with 223 being the, of course, beginning of the fight with Gojo and Sukuna. And there's something kind of interesting that I wanted to kind of go over with this fight that may be at play. And that something is, what if the Gojo that is fighting Sukuna right now is actually Yuji in a swapped body? Before we jump right into that theory though, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy anything you see on this channel, as I make a lot of videos very similar to this one. Thank you for watching. I feel like this idea wouldn't be too out of the ordinary for the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, and we also see in chapter 222, Yuji most definitely has swapped bodies with Kusakabe, since we see Kusakabe himself is calling Itadori, while Itadori was in a shot of being in his body. So I think that very much tells us that this is definitely Yuji inside of his body in some way. I highly doubt Gege would show this panel without there being some reason for there to be a panel of Itadori being called Itadori while not in his own body. And we all know that Itadori just has weird things going on with his body. We don't know exactly what his technique is, but this could kind of be us getting a sort of small idea of what it could be, and this is probably Gege kind of giving us that right now. This kind of begs the question of why Kusakabe at that moment, and I do think that this could be just him trying to train inside of Kusakabe's body, since we know that he is a very strong curse user. It would make sense that he'd want somebody like Yuji to be training in his body if Yuji is going to have an up-and-coming fight. But I also think that maybe he was just having Yuji train his ability to actually swap bodies, and he wanted Yuji to kind of get better at it, and it could have been anybody, but they chose Kusakabe maybe just because he was there at the time. But I do think it's kind of one of these two, or could be both at the same time, that Yuji is training to become stronger, get better reflexes and a lot of different things inside of his body, but also at the same time he's training just being inside of a different person's body. And this could have been his kind of precursor to going inside of Gojo's body and inhabiting him while Gojo is probably somewhere else maybe. I feel like a lot of people would wonder why Gojo or Yuji would even want to swap bodies with each other, and I think that it makes sense in the fact that maybe they're trying to save Megumi. I know that a lot of members of the fan base for some reason just do not like the idea of Megumi coming back. They don't like the idea of him, and I understand it. Megumi is kind of a very big member of the community, and a lot of members do not like him just because of that, just because he's so popular. But I do think it makes sense that he would want Megumi to at least come back in the story, you know, Gege wanting him to come back. And yes, it could also be the case that Megumi is just gone for good, but a lot of Jujutsu fans kind of expect everybody to just pass away just because of how the story is written. But at the same time, we can still have the shonen element of people coming back into the story. This is still a shonen manga at the end of the day, and I do think it would make a lot of sense for them to try to save Megumi in any way possible. Getting back on track from my Megumi rant though, I do think it makes a lot of sense that he would want Yuji to kind of go into this fight to maybe take his body, and I feel like one of the reasons why this would even be the case, and people would wonder why would you send Yuji inside of Gojo's body in there to maybe lose to Sukuna. It does make a lot of sense, since Sukuna has already said on multiple occasions that he really doesn't care about Yuji anymore. He really couldn't care less what Yuji does. He feels like Yuji's kind of just an inferior being. He doesn't really want to fight him at all. We've seen him fight him, and at the end of their said fight with Yuji and Maki, he literally says that, like, I kind of even have more interest in Maki than you yourself, Yuji, and you're kind of nothing. He doesn't want anything to do with Yuji, and if Yuji kind of came up and tried to fight him, he would just go away. He probably wouldn't even give Yuji the benefit of the doubt of having a fight, or he would instantly just erase Yuji right then and there. So this wouldn't be very good for him trying to get back Megumi at this moment. It makes more sense to surprise him with someone like Gojo, someone that even Sukuna himself in a way maybe fears a bit just because of how strong Gojo is and what the name Satoru Gojo kind of holds. Just saying that name and knowing that you're going to fight him is going to let anybody kind of not put their guard down. He's not going to let them easily get close to him, and this does make sense for launching a surprise attack. I feel like all of this just makes a lot of sense in the fact that Yuji has kind of been created as a sort of cage for Sukuna. We've known this for a while, that Sukuna inside of Yuji's body is unable to do a lot of the different things that he wants to do. Him getting stuck inside of Yuji's body again would probably be the last thing that he wants, but it would be something very beneficial to all of the good guys' side. If Yuji is actually able to swap bodies with Sukuna, it would kind of give him the ability to control Sukuna or keep him at bay inside of his own body. This could potentially also give them the opportunity to finally free Megumi of the grasp of Sukuna, and Megumi could most likely get his body back. I do think this is also very important in the fact that Megumi getting his body back would mean that Sukuna doesn't have Maharoga anymore and the kind of cheat ability to just adapt to anything. So this would also give everybody a better chance of fighting him off, since he won't be able to just adapt to any and all phenomena that they try to attack him with. So this would be a big nerf for Sukuna and kind of make things way easier for the heroes in this fight. I do feel like Sukuna would still kind of have a trick up his sleeve and would most likely have a way to kind of come back into the story without the usage of the body that Yuji, or the soul of him that Yuji would have inside of his own body if they did swap in that way. I feel like this is essentially to say that the big point of even trying to swap bodies with Sukuna at this stage in the fight would just be to get rid of Maharoga or the 10 shadows and kind of force Sukuna into just fighting as his own self. We do see that in chapter 223 that this version of Gojo has definitely shown his hollow purple, but we don't see Sukuna actually adapt to this, so this is very good, since that means that if the real Gojo is to also fight Sukuna later on without the usage of Maharoga, he's definitely going to be able to get his attacks through, and they will definitely damage Sukuna the same way that it did inside of this chapter. Another way I feel like this fight could go is that maybe this is the real Gojo, and maybe Yuji is kind of lurking somewhere, kind of waiting for his chance to actually swap bodies with Sukuna also. Or you could better say swap his soul back into his own body, since we do see that whatever he was doing with Kusakabe, he was kind of swapping the souls of one person to another person, but maybe there's some weird occurrence that goes on when there is a person inhabiting another person's body, and Yuji will actually be able to take that soul directly, the soul of Sukuna, directly into his own body. Maybe something like that could occur, but we just do not know at this moment in the story, but we will most likely see exactly what is going on with all of this later on inside of the manga. But I don't think there's just a random reason as to why Gege would kind of show Yuji swapping bodies with Kusakabe or whatever they were doing. It just seems very weird that they would add that in and kind of just leave it at that, or not really do anything with that in terms of the Sukuna fight, since Sukuna fight happens exactly after all of this training inside of the other person's body was. So I just really feel like there's something kind of going on with this fight, and Yuji's proposed body swapping ability is going to maybe be a very good way to actually save Megumi and kind of get a portion of the fan base either mad or very happy, depending on where you kind of stand on Megumi inside of the story of Jujutsu Kaisen. I do feel like this would be a clever way to go about things, but at the same time, maybe I am completely wrong and something completely different will happen, since I do also share the sentiment that Gojo might actually pass away during this fight, as I mentioned in my other video near the ending of that video. But I definitely do think that some interesting things are going to be occurring in this fight, and a lot of very cool panels have come up in the recent chapter 223, and I just cannot wait for more of it. I can't wait to see what kind of theories pass, what kind of theories don't happen, and we see just a lot of attention in the Jujutsu Kaisen community right now, which I really love to see. And I do want everybody else to comment in the comment section what you think is going to kind of occur in this fight. Do you think that Gojo and Yuji are kind of, swapped bodies and they're going to go about it that way? Do you think this is really Gojo fighting himself and Yuji's kind of biding his time, waiting for the right moment to swap with Sukuna? Or do you think something completely different is going on here and we're going to kind of see a completely different turn in the story compared to what the two things that I think are going to happen, since I really do share that sentiment that Gojo might pass away? But definitely let me know what you guys thought of the chapter in the comment section. Also, like the video if you liked it and subscribe, as it really does help me out, and I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys for stopping by. I thank you guys so much. With that being said though, I'm out. Peace.